Oh, hey, Denise, you already in? Hey, Valerie. Hey, Josh. Hey, Julian. We'll wait a couple more minutes to get a few more in. Yep, there's Amberly. Good morning. And Sierra. Good morning. Hopefully you all got to work the first 20. We're going to go over those and then a few more others. But if you didn't, while we're kind of waiting, if you want to try to work the first 20 so you'll know how well you will have done on that part.
Unmuted. Okay. Am I on here? Start video. Unable to access camera settings. Privacy camera.
You're good, Denise. I just muted you. If you want to share something, you can unmute yourself or ask a question, and that goes for everybody. Please ask questions, okay? That's the best way I can help you as well. Okay, good. All right, I know we need a few more, but they're not here yet. We'll give them, let's go. We'll start at 11:02 just to be sure somebody's not trying to get in. I know a couple people had issues when we were doing this before. That's why I sent that link. Good morning. I'll just kind of get us started. Good morning. I'm glad you're here. You will see me on here as two different people because it just works easier when I share my screen if I use my iPad to talk. So that just ends up working a little bit better. So bear with me on getting questions. If someone sees something in the chat and you realize that I didn't notice it because Miss Epperson is not here, sometimes we do that as teams and that helps, but she had a commitment. That's why she wanted to go first yesterday. And thank you. I think almost everybody, maybe except Julian, was in the one yesterday. And Julian and Amberly, I guess, that YouTube is now up on our Google Classroom. So whenever you miss a session or you can't make it, or you want to go back and watch it again, I know Miss Epperson works the math quickly. If you didn't get a problem, you can go right into that YouTube and just skip to the one that you have questions on and listen again, back it up, see how she gets there. She is awesome on the calculator. If you don't know how to use everything on that calculator or you want to ask her more questions, feel free to shoot me a text with your question and then maybe your phone number, and I will send her your question and she can call you. She is going to be traveling some in the next couple of days, so she probably has some downtime that she could probably call you. She is more than willing to help. She's really good at the math. I don't think she mentioned it yesterday, but last year, maybe even the year before, I got her during that year to help me do this because I used to do the math and the science as well. And it's just a lot for me to remember and keep up with all the ins and outs of the ever-changing test for all 4 sections. So I was really happy to get Miss Epperson that knows math very well, her degrees in math, and especially on the ACT, because algebra is my friend, geometry is not. And like she talked about yesterday, there's more geometry in the ACT. I have to work a whole lot harder personally for the ACT math because it just doesn't come as natural with me. But she worked with me for about a half a year and then the whole year the next year. And then last summer, she took the SAT because she wanted to see how it felt. She wanted to see if it was really what we are teaching and everything like that. And she just wanted to know how she'd do. She usually tells this. She missed one question on the math, and she asked for the like they'll give you all the answer and answer explanations afterwards if you sign up for that. I think it costs an extra $12. She did that, and she absolutely contends and wrote a letter to the SAT people that that one question she missed is wrong. So she knows her math very well. Yeah, okay, now we got Emma in and Denise is back with us. Good, so I think there are a couple people I'm still looking for, but if they're not here, we're gonna move on. So like I said, that session is on the Google Classroom, as well will be this one. So if you forgot something or didn't know, you can always go back and look at them again. I'm gonna also talk about some of the other stuff that I put on the Google Classroom that can help you practice. If I were you, especially that this is the last week, I would be spending some time 2 or 3 times a day. Sitting and doing it for 2 hours at a time is not as helpful as 15 or 20 minutes here, take a break and come back to it, 15 or 20 minutes here. Maybe do that throughout your day for the next few days. I'm also going to post several other tests today so that you can do practice tests on your own. This particular test that you were given to print, or either I left for you at school for you to print, or got it to you some kind of way. It is a test that was actually given in June of last year. I got copies of certain tests, and so this is literally the one that was given last June. So we know it's very current, and it's very much like the one you're going to see this Saturday. Let's start with, hang on a second, let me make sure I am recording. I think I am. Yep. All right, then I'm going to share the screen a bit, and we're going to look at some things that I want you to be able to see. Hopefully your screen will change any minute. I see it's working on it. Okay, let's just first talk about what we want to do with the ACT. Why are we taking the ACT? Students ask me all the time, which one's easier? That's the one I want to take. Okay, there is not a standard answer for that. I used to be able to answer a little more decisively before they changed the SAT, but that's been 3.5 years ago. So it's, for all practical purposes, it's hard for me to say which one is going to work better for different students. If you're really good at science and you know that's a strong area for you, then probably the ACT is a good test for you to take, but it is different in other areas. So I highly suggest that you take both. And most of you, I think, have already taken at least one or two of these. So you have some feedback on these, but we have different goals. I will tell you this, for Bright Futures, which I know a lot of you are trying to get, the SAT went up last summer, but the ACT did not. It stayed the same. And now that we've passed July 1st, they can't change it for this next year. Those are the rules. If they're going to change it, they have to notify us by July 1st. We knew we had not heard anything, and now July 1st has come and gone, so these two numbers are going to stick. If you get a composite score of a 26, you get 75% of your college paid for. And if you get a 29, you get 100% of your college paid for. Now, also, there are other requirements. You guys know those. You can work with your career counselor or your counselor. You work with whoever you need to work with to find the other requirements out. But if you can score those numbers, usually the other requirements are not as hard to get. This past year, because of COVID, it was a little bit hard for the volunteer hours, but they did make some concessions. They also extended that date to the end of July, I believe it is. So I don't think we have any seniors in here, last year graduate seniors, that are taking this right now, but if any needed to, they still could. We had a good many in our June classes that needed to do that. Remember, super scoring does apply to Bright Futures. Super scoring just means your best score in any particular section is what you keep. Let's say in the math section, the first time you took it, you made a 19. The next time you took it, you made a 31. Well, obviously you like the 31 better. But when you took the reading at the same time, maybe you did better on the reading last time. You made the 31 on reading last time. The second time you took it, you made the 19. So you keep the 31 in both and you average the number. That's what composite score means. You take 4 sections and you just average it. Most of you probably know that, but in case not, just so you know, if your goal is for Bright Futures, these are the numbers that you're looking for. All right, I do have some of you absolutely that are trying to get this FSA ELA graduation requirement. We all know that test taking is not everybody's strength. This is absolutely no reflection on someone's ability or intelligence level. I strongly believe that. Some people get test anxiety, can take honors and AP classes, but just don't seem to do well on these timed tests. So that makes it hard for you if that's one of you. The 2 ways to pass, so to speak, on an ACT is if you score a 19 on the reading only. In your particular case, you're not as concerned with the science or the math sections. You are for college, but if you're trying to get this graduation requirement and you have some test anxiety, I usually say, don't worry about the other 2 sections now. You can come back and take it again for the others to get a good college score. But let's make sure we get these scores, either a 19 on reading or an 18 average of the English and the reading. So the English section helps you with that requirement. Now, some of you may be trying to get a college entrance score. Maybe, maybe you want to go to USF and they have at least a, say, 27, I think it was last year. It does change every year, so make sure you check it pretty often. But maybe that's your score that you're trying to get. Remember that your banked scores can be used. Now, when you hear that, basically that just means if you took it, let's say you took it they did give it in February and April. No, February, March they gave it. Let's say you had a really good score on a couple of sections there, but then you don't take it again until maybe even October. It doesn't matter. Whatever scores you have are banked, and then you still get to choose those scores for your super score. So those scores do not get old. If you've ever taken it and had a score, those scores are banked. Your counselor can kind of walk you through those. Let's talk about the ACT itself for a few minutes. This is something that is brand new, and a lot of you are going to take advantage of this. Starting with the September 12th, the 9/12 ACT, you're going to be able to go in and take one section only. So let's say you go Saturday and you do fantastic on 3 sections, but not quite as well on one, and your average score might be a 25, and you're trying to get that 26. You're more than welcome to go in and take all sections again, or let's say you just really bombed the science, and you just weren't feeling it that day in science. You were tired by that point, but you want to go in and take the science and science only. You will be able to do that. Now, I can't tell you how much it cost yet. I haven't had a student that's gone in to see that. They told us it was going to be around $20 to $25. So it will be, at least that amount, I'm sure, but I don't have that final amount. But if that's the case, let's say you get your scores in 2 weeks, which is when your scores will come in 2 weeks from taking it of Saturday, and you think you want to take just maybe one more section, that's now an option. If you're trying to take the pass for the reading benchmark, this is perfect for you, because then you can go in and only take the English and the reading. And I don't know how much 2 sections are. They didn't discuss it or give us a price range on that yet. But that's a new feature that is brand new. No one's gotten to do it yet. It will start in September. It's a good thing. ACT has science and SAT does not. SAT has science passages that you read with, or maybe that you do the English with, but there is not a specific science-y section. Now on Thursday, we're going to have Miss Hirth, who is going to cover the science section, and she is extremely good at this. She spent time, she knows it, and she's really good at science anyway, but she's really good at the science ACT. So make sure you join us that day. She'll go over that. By the way, if you joined us in June, we're using all different tests. So don't think, oh, I already did that one. I would do it again. What does it cost you but a little time? Another feature of the ACT is that you get to use your calculator on all the math. Remember SAT, you have one section you can't use it, one section that you can. This one, you use it in the entire test. There are no A and B questions like FSA and SAT. A lot of students do not do well with those, say they confuse them, frustrates them, so that's a good thing to keep in mind. None of those. You do not need to take the essay for the either for ACT or SAT unless your college requires it. I used to say take it one time, and I think that's still a good idea, just so you could get a score, because you don't know which college you're going to go to for sure until you really go. So then you'd at least have a score, especially if writing is not a struggle for you. One of the times you take the test, SAT or ACT, take it with the essay, then you'll at least have a score. But if you know what particular school you're going to, go look at their requirements. Most of them have dropped this. What they want now is your personal essay on some prompt that they in particular gave. So they're looking more for a specific thing. So that keeps you from having to take that. In the English, there is less punctuation. There's more word choice and verb tense. We'll talk more about that today, but if punctuation is a struggle for you, then ACT may be a better test. In the math, there is more geometry. For me in particular, that would make it more of a struggle. I do better at SAT math, but if that's not you and you do well at geometry and that doesn't, upset you, good to go here with the ACT. In the reading, there is less inferring. My students who are ESOL seem to do better with the ACT reading than they do the SAT. It's a little more straightforward. There aren't as many slang or words that you'd have to kind of know because you heard them from your grandmother kind of thing. There also, the vocabulary is less tricky. It's a lot more straightforward. Do I have any questions before I move on? I don't want to leave anybody out. Somebody needs to do, a question, please let me know. You might want to jot some of this down because this is going to be good information. You just flip your packet over and write it on the back if you need. The English section now, which is what we're going to focus on today. It's 45 minutes long and there are 75 questions. That means it's fast, okay? You definitely can do it. It is very manageable. I'm going to show you a few ways to help it be manageable. Obviously, you want to get as many correct as possible. And if you get them wrong, they do not hurt you. So you want to get an answer for every question. You want to work toward 2 questions per minute. Sometimes on some of these, you're going to be able to do 3 a minute. And that's awesome because that gives you more time on the ones that take longer. I want you to consider skipping the time-consuming questions. In the first page, I marked the time-consuming ones, and out of the first 10, there were 2 that I considered more time-consuming. I personally do skip those. And just so you know, Miss Epperson and I both, and I know Miss Hirth does, I don't know if she timed herself recently, but we work these same packets before we ever give them to you, and we work them in the amount of time allotted so that we feel the pressure you do, and we work it a certain way, and then we see, oh, wow, that didn't work for this particular test, or it did work, or whatever. So just know that I have worked this one in 45 minutes, and I did finish in 45 minutes. I was right there at the end. I did have to do my little smartly guessing on a few, but then I was able to go back and do them. So I finished this particular test in that 45 minutes with the 75 questions, but I did skip the time consuming ones and came back. We'll talk about that a little more. You want to mark your answer key, like bubble in your physical answer after you've completed both pages. And I mean, as it opens up, like let's say we do number 1, don't go mark number 1A and then go to number 2 and mark it D. If you go back and forth, that takes too much time, and we're all about saving time this day. When you finish the entire page that you have open there, both pages, even if you've skipped, now that's when it comes up to you. Personally, I go ahead and mark all of them, and I skip the ones I skip, and I bend that page down on the corner so that I know to come back to it. But I don't mark the ones that I'm skipping. Now you have to be careful, because if you get off on your numbers, you've really screwed yourself that day. And honestly, as a test proctor for a number of years now, that happens, and it's very upsetting. I can see the fear in somebody's face. They just look up at me in the middle of marking, and I know the look. So be really careful. Make sure you mark the correct ones, skipping the ones you do. But that is what I personally do. You can decide what works best for you. This does work for all sections as well. Whenever you have both sections scored, or on the reading, whenever you have that passage scored, they're usually on both pages. But I would go ahead and mark them at that time instead of marking one by one or saving it to the end. I've seen students save it to the end and they don't have enough time, and that's really scary. If you have the time to work it, but you didn't have the time to mark it, it just doesn't help, right? When you hear you have 5 minutes left in this section, I hate as a test proctor having to say that. It just invokes fear in the room. I can feel it in the room. But when you hear that, just know, okay, it's time for me to start smartly guessing. Don't let it blow your mind. Whichever questions you have not answered, that's when I want you to smartly guess. And what I mean by that is look up and down the columns. Which column have you chosen the most of today? Now on an on an SAT, all the answers are A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D. Okay, SAT is like that. ACT is not. It's A, B, C, D, and then the next one is going to be F, G, H, and J. It doesn't matter. Did you pick more answers right in the first column, the second column, the third column, or the fourth column? That's all I'm really looking for. And don't spend a ton of time doing that. Just notice, which one did I pick the most of today? Let's say you picked the second column, which would be either B or G. Then that's the one I would take at that point. Let's say I was on number 69 at that point. I would go mark number 69 as the second one, number 70, 71, 72. I would go all the way to the end and pick that same column. There is an answer of the day, and if you have gotten most of them right, then you will have picked the answer of the day. If you didn't, they jump around enough so that this strategy should help you. You should pick up, if you have 10 and you use this strategy, usually what ends up happening, and I've done this with most of the tests that I've worked with, I'll go back and rescore them this way. If you guessed on 10, usually you get 2 or 3, sometimes up to 5 correct by doing this method. All right, after you've marked them all, then I want you to go back and work the quick questions and change your answer if it's not the one that you've guessed. I know I've talked about that with most of you, but make sure you do this and use your time to your advantage. Make sure you finish within that time frame. Whatever you do, do not get caught marking in a wrong section. It's a terrible thing we have to do, but I have had to do it. Many other proctors have had to do it. If you get caught doing that, we have to ask you to leave the room and your test is not scored. So please don't do that. And if you so choose to do that, please make sure you don't get caught. I'll just leave it at that, because if we see you doing it, we have to get you out of the room, especially with all the SAT scandal and everything that went on, say, a year ago with all those Hollywood people paying people to test and getting test codes and all that kind of stuff. We have to be much more particular about it. So please know, don't do it and get caught. I'll leave it at that. All right, the English questions, they're a little differently laid out with an ACT than they are with an SAT. There are vocabulary questions for sure, but some of them are like, do you know how to use the word however, therefore, henceforth, all of those words. So I call those vocabulary as well, because if you don't know the meanings of those, you're going to miss that as well. And that's where I call those vocabulary. There is absolutely straight vocabulary. On an ACT, there's a lot more verb tense than there is SAT. Please be aware. Word choice, like who and whom, less and furthermore and more than, and some of those kind of like words that we think are not difficult, but we have to use them in the correct way, the grammatically correct way. Those stump some people. So be aware of that. I'm going to show you some ways of practicing those things in a couple minutes. Sentence logic, whether you use the word on or in or of, however, and therefore come in there too, because you would only use that once you know the meaning, then you would logically only put one in there. The paragraph logic are the ones that take longer. The punctuation, like I said, there's less of them, but those are the ones hopefully you can work very quickly. You need to make sure you know how to use a colon, a semicolon, a comma, a hyphen, which is that long one, or a dash, which is the short one. And I've got some things on our Google Classroom to check those. Make sure you know your strategy before the day of. Don't just go in there and say, yeah, I think I'm going to do this, and then at the last minute you might change. Make sure you have your strategy set. That's just to help you feel more in control. You're going to hear me say things like, I want you to be in control of the test, not the test in control of you. That's key. If you feel like you're in control, you are going to score better and you're going to get more right, even if you're not getting them all right. You feel like you're getting them right, therefore your confidence is up, therefore you get more right. All right, I'm going to switch our screen share now to our Google Classroom so that you can see. Yep, there you go. All right, yeah, here's where Miss Epperson put yesterday's math. And then there is the physical answer key right here for the math we did yesterday. All right, then below all of those, either you can access them here or you can go up to classwork. Either way you do it is fine. I've put on there, I think there are 13 different things that are really, really good things for you to use, such as a semicolon and a comma. And some of you are going to say, yes, she did that last time. I tried to add some new things so that hopefully they're not all there. And definitely on the practice down here, even if you did them before, you need to do them again before you take this test, just to make sure. These are the 2 videos that I have shown a good many of you. If you haven't seen them, please watch them. If you've seen them, they're like 4 minutes long, maybe 6 minutes on the lady in the brown sweater. That's just what I call that one. It's worth your time just to make sure. Take notes as you go. And then the practices are down here. They're only like maybe 8 or 10 questions. Well worth your time. Let's go down. I put a bunch there. Who and whom, affect and effect. You can almost count on seeing an affect and an effect, a who and whom. Those are going to be there almost every time in an ACT. Some of them more than once. Dashes and hyphens. You just are going to see less in an ACT, and I think this particular one did not have any, but the one that I just worked with another student last week had 3. So you're going to need to make sure you know this. All right, this one is transitional word meanings. You may say, oh, miss, I know what therefore means. I know what in addition to means. Yeah, well, maybe there's some that you don't know, or maybe you didn't think about it in a different way. You probably want to spend some time there because ACT is huge on these transitional words. If you don't have them in the correct order, correct way, they're going to be wrong. Several other things just down there at the bottom. Please spend some time with those. Like I said, either just right under where we've already posted, or if you go to classwork, they show up here, and then you can go from there. I also have something on test day reminders. Please read that. It's very, very important that you're ready on that particular day. All of those things on that list are very important. Main things are you must bring an ID and you must bring your printed ticket. If you don't have those 2, they will turn you away. I know some of you are taking it at Gaither. If you have an issue, don't have yours printed, can't print it, aren't able to, shoot me a text, let me know. If you're okay with me going into your account, I will print it and bring it the morning of. All right, we're gonna stop screen sharing here. Do I have any questions at this point? Okay, I just wanted to do a good overview of our goals with this. I normally start when we do these sessions and go over that, but like I said, Miss Epperson had something else she needed to do. By show of hands, and you can just click the little hand if you want, or put yes in the chat, how many people worked the first 20 on the English section? All right, that sounds good. I'm going to just give you the answers on the first 20, but I'm also going to talk about them because the first 20 they're a perfect example of what you're going to see 7.5 more times, or 6.5 more times, I guess, if it's the first 10. I noted the two that would have taken more time. If you can see mine, I put it in yellow. The first one is down here, number 2. And on the second page, down here, number 10. Those are the two, when I took this test, those are exactly the two I skipped. I went ahead and did all the other ones, and then I bent my page at the top so that told me, okay, you've got to come back to that one. And then that's what I did. After I got to the end, I went back and I worked my bent pages. You're going to have probably most of them have a bent page, so it's going to end up being most, but that's just a good reminder for me. On an SAT, when I come back to them, I don't have every bent page. On ACT, I have more bent pages because there are more that take more time. So let's all look at number 1. Let me get my pen. Looking at number 1, all right, a couple of things I want you to note about an ACT. The story is going to be right beside the number. Okay, see where number 1 is? It's going to be directly across from here. And number 2 is going to be directly across from here. Then you don't have anything down here. This throws people off. Like if you look at the second page, okay, there's blank spaces in here. That doesn't mean this is 2 different paragraphs. It just means that this goes with this one goes with this one, they go across. Be careful with that, because sometimes they're going to say in paragraph 3, okay, if you aren't aware of that and aren't being careful about that, you might skip paragraph, get off on your counting of your paragraphs. So just know ACT is like that, SAT is not. So it's going to be directly across. So I look down, and the first thing I'm going to do is read this entire passage. No, please do not read these passages, especially in this, on the English section. There is no way you have time for this. You're only going to read what you have to read. And I glance first at number 1. My major question is, do I need sweat, comma, who? Do I need sweat, semicolon, who? Do I need sweat, comma, deserve? Or sweat, semicolon, deserve? Okay, so what's my question? Do I need who, and do I need a semicolon? Do I need to read this passage to know that? Absolutely not. First thing I'm going to look at is, I'm always going to jump to the semicolons. Do I need that semicolon? Now, just as a little quick thing, the only time you are supposed to use a semicolon is when you have an independent clause and an independent clause. You'll see that in the videos, but you have to have an independent clause and independent clause. Gee, miss, what is an independent clause? Okay, it's real simple. You have to have a subject, you have to have a verb, and it has to be a standalone sentence. It has to make sense on its own. It should be able to be 2 individual sentences that you are able to combine, and it logically makes sense. Why do you want to use that? Because the ideas are linking. Remember, all of these that you're going to read, everything you're going to read on this day is going to be something academic, okay? It's an academic paper. So there are going to be lots of linking ideas. I tell students, whenever you write a paper, if you want to impress your English teacher, use a semicolon in there somewhere. Don't use tons of them, because then you become obnoxious with it. Right? And your teacher's going to go, yeah, they're just being braggadocious. They know how to use a semicolon, and it's just not working. And you don't need to use them tons, but I would say sprinkle them in there, maybe 1 per page, 1 or 2 per page. When you write your college essay, you want to use probably a semicolon in there somewhere. It shows you have command of the English language. It shows you got your act together. You want to use them. In this particular case, that's the first thing I'm going to go for. My 2 things are, do I need who, and do I need a semicolon or a comma? So I'm going to very quickly look that if there was a semicolon there, who deserves some of the credit? Okay, who deserves some of the credit? Who is the subject? Okay, deserves is the verb. So I've got that. I've got the 2 pieces there. So the second half could definitely be a sentence. So then I go back and say, While many factors contributed to Secretariat's success, selective breeding, top-notch trainers, and skillful jockey, to name a few, the expertise and diligence and care of horses groom, Eddie Sweet. Okay, stop right there. And that's a very long sentence, but it starts with the word while. What does the word while tell me? There's more coming. Would you ever start a sentence with while that you didn't tell what the wild was? Okay, that sentence can't stand alone. So automatically, the two choices that I have that are semicolon have to come out. So B and D come out. Literally strike a line through. This will help you, I promise. Spend the time to do it. It's your thinking on paper. This day, the only tools you have are your brain and your pencil. Okay? Make sure you're taking advantage of everything you have there. We know those two don't make sense. So we need to ask ourselves, do we need to say the word who? Okay. The expertise and diligence of care of the horse's groom, Eddie Sweet, who deserves some of the credit. Well, who deserves the credit? Eddie Sweet does. Do we need to say who? No, we do not. It's redundant. So our answer is going to be C. Now, write the word redundant beside that. ACT, SAT, all of these standardized tests, FSA, all of them do not like the word redundant. If something is redundant, it's wrong. Just almost count on that. You will not need to say who because you just said who in the two words before. So that one we have correct. Now, something I personally do and I encourage you to do is I put my big old check. Couple of reasons. I am building confidence there because whether I know I got it right or not, I think I got it right. Therefore, I'm ready to move on to the next one feeling like, whoop, whoop, I got it going on. All right. The second one, I did skip and come back to, but we're going to work through it for this particular one, pretending that we came back to it. So let's see. At this point, the writer is considering adding the following. Okay. I underline adding. Okay. We're going to add this. They're saying, do we need to add it? Another key figure was Ron Tukori, or there's another thing. It doesn't matter. Call him Ron T. Don't upset yourself that day trying to pronounce names, especially of places and people. It doesn't matter. It's Ron T. Anything to keep our stress down. The skillful jockey who rode Secretariat to victory in the Triple Crown races. Should this addition be made? Well, what are we talking about here? We already know it was talking about factors that contributed to the Secretariat's success. And then I look up at the title, Eddie Sweet, a groom's groom. Okay, who was Eddie Sweet? It was the one who groomed Secretariat. I may have to go back and read the first sentence. In 1973, the 3-year-old colt Secretariat won each event in the Triple Crown of the thoroughbred racing, the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness Stakes, and the Belmont Stakes, a feat accomplished only 11 times in the 20th century. While many factors, okay, I already read that one. So at this point, right after that, should we say another key figure in what's the story about? It's about Eddie Sweet, isn't it? It's named that. Why would you mention another key person or thing in this? You wouldn't. So I'm going to strike through yes. It doesn't need to be added. You'll notice I didn't even read the yeses. I decided myself, okay? If you can't decide yes or no right off the bat, then you would need to go read those. But try to figure it out first. Remember, we're saving time. I know there's no point in bringing in this other person's name in an article that's written about someone else. It doesn't help, right? It doesn't add to it. It doesn't serve the same purpose. It doesn't stay on the same wavelength that our author is on. So I'm going to look at the no's. No, because it detracts from the paragraph's focus on horses that have won the Triple Crown. Is that the paragraph's focus? No. Our focus is Eddie Sweet. It says it right there in our title. So I don't like that one. The next one says no, because it detracts from the paragraph's purpose of introducing the essay's main topic. Remember, this is your introduction. You wouldn't bring in other things like that in your introduction anyway. Absolutely, J is it. I'm going to circle it like I did the other one, and I'm going to put my big old check. Now I know I'm finished with that page. Why? Because I can quickly glance and see that I've done both of those. All right, let's look at number 3. This is another one. I'm not going to read that sentence. I look, it says, and they clean, or cleaning, to clean, or clean. Okay, here's our, what I call the verb tense one and the word choice. They both kind of go together. So we probably need to read that, at least part of that sentence. It's just one sentence above, so let's read it. A groom's basic tasks include washing and brushing the horse, trimming its mane and tail, and they clean its hooves. Okay, what did I just tell you? Do we need to be redundant? Absolutely not. Who is they? They are the people that are cleaning and maintaining this horse, right? So do we need to say the word they? No. So A comes out automatically. Now, and cleaning its hooves? Maybe. I don't see anything wrong with it. It does say its mane and tail and sometimes when I have too many ands in there, that's an incorrect. But right off the bat, I don't see anything wrong with it. I'm going to leave it. What I do is I put a little dot on the outside, like under the number 3. This is an answer possibility that I may choose. I eliminate the wrong things and then come back and reassess what I think there wasn't anything wrong with. And then I choose the best. All right. So let's just read this. To clean, okay, include washing and brushing the horse, trimming its manes, and to clean its hooves. Okay. Washing, trimming, and to clean. Do those 3 verbs go together? Absolutely not. Washing, trimming, and now I'm really liking that cleaning only because it's definitely not cleaning. And when I look at clean, it's out for the same reason. You have to use the same verb tense within a sentence or it's not proper. So that one is a fairly easy one after we break it down. All right. Number 3 is B. Let's look at number 4. Remember, it matches over. It's in the same paragraph, and that gets us confused sometimes, so be careful. Which of the following alternatives to the underlined portion would not be acceptable? Please, 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 please underline that word not. These are the ones, especially as I tutor students, that I see students miss the most. You're looking for the wrong answer. Underline it, circle it, mark it big. I call those stop words. Stop, slow down, take your time, because these are tricky. ACT loves these knots. You're going to see, I think I counted 16 in this particular one, that you were picking basically the wrong answer, right? So a groom also is what we're looking for. A groom also cleans stalls and takes care of the riding equipment. Okay, a simple sentence. Additionally, a groom, okay, additionally and also mean the same thing. So it is appropriate, which means it's not wrong. All right. A groom, in addition, yeah, I don't like it, but it is the same thing. In some, a groom. What does the word some mean? Some means in total. In total, a groom, does that, I don't think, I think that's our wrong answer. It does not mean the same thing. Also, there's the exact word, just put in a different place. If you notice, the 3 options are exactly the same and one sticks out like a sore thumb, right? In some does not say the same thing. Therefore, I have gone through, literally marking through them and come up with the right answer. Now you may say, Miss, it takes too long, I'll never get through. I'm doing teacher talk. When you're doing this in your brain, you're going to do it much faster than I'm going to do. Your brain can think 10 times the amount of time it can talk. So you'll be able to quickly eliminate wrong ones, thinking through this logic that you hear me saying now that you're going to be doing in your brain. So number 4 is H. Now, here's a really good one. Number 5, here, remember I said who and whom? You will see that several times. Those whom witnessed sweet with secretariat attest that his care suppressed the usual duties of the groom. Okay. Those, basically the answer are going to be, do we need to use of whom? Do we need to use who, whom, or of which? Well, right off the bat, of which is not what I'm going to use, and of whom, those of whom witnessed. Why do you have to say of? There is no, that's all redundant in there. Okay. Those who or whom is basically, it says the whole thing. The of part is unnecessary. You don't need to say those because you've already done it. Those has of in it. Only those who graduate tomorrow, right, already says who it is. So now we want to say, is it whom or who? Okay. When you use whom, it's the object. I'm not going to beat this one too much because I want you to see those videos. Please look at that video. There's a little thing that we call the Heimlich maneuver. If you can answer with him, you use whom. If you learn that, that is the easiest way to do it, and you don't have to worry about object, subject. It just works out. So I'm going to go through here and just basically tell you that is not the object. It is the subject. Those who witnessed. Who witnessed, not whom witnessed. The answer to that is B. But if you didn't get that one right, please go look at that who and whom video because you're absolutely going to see that. Number 6, remember they've shifted us down again. He'd talk to the horse constantly. He'd soothe him in Gullah, a Creole English. I don't know if you all know Gullah. I come from South Carolina, and the people in the low country of South Carolina, they spoke either Geechee or Gullah. It's a totally different language. So that means something to me. I know what that is, but they explain it right here. It's a Creole English language commonly spoken to in South Carolina, African-American communities Sweet grew up in, okay? They've explained that for you. If they didn't, to soothe him in Gullah, okay, you would know it means some language. So don't let those things upset you if you don't know they were. You never heard of that? No big deal. I know that because I grew up with, I knew people who, in the low country, when I would go to my island house, people would speak Gullah at the grocery store. I would hear them say this. So I know what that is. That doesn't upset me. Please don't let it upset you either. You don't need to know, because our basic questions are, do we need to say constantly, comma, heed, soothe, or constantly, period, and then soothing, or constantly, semicolon, soothing, or constantly, comma, soothing? Okay, the first thing I noticed was he'd talk to the horse constantly. He'd soothe him in Gullah. Do we need to say heed again? No, there goes your redundancy. Look how many we've already had. 3, I believe, so far. That if you just know not to be redundant, you'd have gotten them right. So we don't need to repeat who's doing this, who's soothing, because it's like 4 or 5 words before. So A, or that's F on this one, F comes out. All right, the next thing I'm going to look for is they're asking me, do I need a period, a semicolon, or a comma? Okay, let's go see if we need the semicolon. That's the first one I'm going to jump to. All right. If I notice it says constantly, semicolon, soothing, if I wanted to use a semicolon there, I would have had to leave the subject, the heed, in there. Okay. But I don't need to use it. Therefore, I took my subject out. I can't have that one. H has to come out. You can't use a semicolon unless you have a subject on both sides, subject and a verb. If I took my subject out, I can't use it. All right, so now I'm looking at, do I want to use a period or do I want to use a comma? Well, in an academic writing, please remember, you're not going to use short, choppy sentences. Just like your papers you turn into your English teachers, especially if you take honors or AP classes, you're going to get just marked all over the place for using short, choppy sentences. Therefore, same thing is going to go here. This is an academic paper. Rarely are you going to have a short and choppy sentence. For the most part, you're going to say a comma. for the most part. Okay, there'll be exceptions, but this one gets our point across very nicely. He talked to the horse constantly, soothing him in gullah. Okay, why would you not link those two things? So we do not need the period. G comes out. J is correct. Put your big old check. Yay, look how good I feel today. Okay, in this amount of time, for these 6 questions, had I skipped the number 2 for sure, I might be 5 minutes in, maybe even less than that, because my thinking is going to be a lot quicker. Let's look at number 7. Chain, no change. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I don't know if you noticed that. Usually no change is always your first one. So let's look at number 7. It says noticeable to him while the horse was eating. Okay, that, and delete. Okay, so maybe I do need to read this sentence. After cooking Secretariat a mash of oats and corn, he'd watch him eat, taking note of changes in appetite noticeable to him. Okay, hold on. Ding, ding, ding. Noticeable to him, taking note of any changes. Does that not mean the same thing? Right? See where I've marked that? I'm not falling for that. Here's another redundant. Why would I say taking note of changes noticeable to him? He just said he's taking note of it. He is noticing. Almost means exactly the same thing, right? So no change cannot be correct. All right. So taking note of changes in appetite that become apparent while watching him eat. That become apparent. Okay, there's a possibility. I'm not sure that I love it, but I don't see anything wrong. Nothing's jumping out wrong. That were noticeable to him. Same thing. We don't want to say noticeable because you're taking notes already. I would take C out. Delete the underlined portion and end the sentence with a period. Okay, let's see. After cooking Secretariat a mash of oats and corn, he'd watch him taking note of changes in appetite. Why not? Heck yeah. That became, our choices are B and D. That became apparent while watching him. Well, he already said watching him. Same thing, redundant. I'm going to D, take that one out, put my big old check, and I'm moving on to my next one. Number 8. I notice it's real short. Attention to, attentively, attentive to, attentive to, or attentively. So our choices are attention to, attentively to. Well, right off the bat, do we say they were very attentively to? No, verb tense wrong. G comes out. Attention to, or attentive to, or attentively. Okay, now maybe we need to read. That's the only one I could mark out. It's the only one that was grammatically wrong. He'd also examine Secretariat's teeth and take his temperature daily. Attention to any signs. No, it's not attention. You're not giving. If you said giving attention, attention there doesn't work. The word attention does not. So it's not no change. If I just said it's not no change, it's not attention. It's either attentive to any signs or attentively any signs. Well, you need another word there. Word's missing, right? J comes out. H is the only one that makes sense. I hope you guys are getting some of these right. Number 9. However, comma, on. Okay, so if we're being asked, however, therefore, or for example, everything else is on. There are 3 that have words before the on and 1 that doesn't, right? Okay. Many, many times. And if you're having to smartly guess at the end, if you've got 3 that are very similar and 1 that's completely out there, it's probably the out there one, but you want to go make sure, right? Because however, therefore, and for example are similar. They are not the same. So they could be tricking you. But right off the bat, I'm kind of thinking, okay, I'm going to pay attention to, do we even need a word before that? So which tells me I need to read the sentence before. Sweet would spend extra time massaging the horse's legs, applying healing poultices, whatever those are, same thing. It's just some kind of something they put on the legs. Don't stress over it. Made from herbs that he had gathered. However, on nights before big races, he'd even sleep in the horse stall. Okay. However means because, or since. There's lots of things there. Do I need to say however there? However, he would even, is it but he even slept? Does that not show? No, that word is wrong because it's not shocking information. If he is cooking this horse food and rubbing him down, he's made his own spicy stuff to put on there, and he even sleeps with the horse the night before. Is it shocking that he would sleep before? No. A has to come out. I'm not sure even, my first instinct is thinking in my own mind, I'm thinking, oh yeah, I think I'm right. Because do I need to say therefore? No, I don't need to say therefore. For example, is this an example of what? Okay, he did say other ways he took special attention. All right, for example, on nights, that's where I would go back and forth. It is an example, but how do I determine whether it's an example or not? Do I need to say this is an example? No, I don't, because I just gave other examples above. If this was the first example, maybe they had talked about how much he cared for the horse, but didn't give specifics, then I might say, for example, but they already gave specifics. They already gave examples. For that reason, I'm taking out D, and look there. The first one I thought in the beginning was going to be right is the only one that I have left, and I liked it in the beginning, and it is the correct answer. All right, I know we're getting close. Let's work number 10. I will post the other answers to the English section on the Google Classroom in just a few minutes. I took a picture of it, but I didn't post it up yet. So just know that what I want you to do is to like work. Probably what I suggest is go work like 20 at a time and then check and see where you missed them. What am I doing wrong? What am I thinking wrong? And then go do the next 20. Now, but also go look at those videos. I might even do those before I would start. I would do some of those practices, get good with the rules and the things you know you're going to see so that when you encounter them, you will come up with more correct answers, which is obviously our goal. Number 10, the writer wants to divide this paragraph. So I'm going to underline the word divide. He wants to divide the paragraph into two in order to separate the general information. Okay, so we're going to separate the general information about the groom's duties to specific details about what Eddie did. Right? The best place to begin with the new paragraph. So what are they asking you? Where does the general stop and where does the specific start? Okay. Is it at point A? Now these get a little hard too because you've kind of looked over this. You might not notice, but your A is back up here. That's how they're going to denote those. At the time, you probably didn't even notice when you were reading it. But let's ask ourselves, is this where general stops and specific starts? A groom, let's see what was before. He trims, oh wow, it kind of sounds specific already. He trims its manes, they clean its hooves. The groom cleans the stalls and takes care of the riding equipment. Okay, there's not a lot of change there, is it? I don't like it. So then I go look for point B, which is really the line right below it. Point B, to whom witnessed sweet, to those who, remember we changed that. To those who witnessed sweet with Secretariat can attest his care surpassed the usual duties of the groom. He talked to the horse constantly. Okay, there is a little break there because it's saying everybody noticed this. And it's not giving specifics in that particular paragraph, in that particular sentence. I'll keep it. I'm not sure that I like it, but that's the only thing I see. Remember, I'm looking for general and specific. Where does that break happen? All right, then the next one is point C. This is when he spoke to him in Creole and after cooking after he cooked the corn mash. Absolutely not. Those are specifics. He spoke to him in Creole. You can't get much more specific than that. And he cooked a mash of oats and corn. That's very specific. That one I don't like. D, I'm hoping I like D because I didn't really like B. Or J, sorry, G and J, they flip. Point D down at the bottom. All right, it says he also examines his teeth, takes his temperature, and he pays attention to signs of illness. Well, the sweet would also massage the horse's legs. Is there any difference between general and specifics? No, they're still both very specific. So guess what? Even though I don't like B, or I didn't in the beginning, now I like it. All the others have specifics in both sentences. The only one that didn't was B. Now, would I personally break it up there? Probably not, but they're saying the writer is considering doing this, right? These are not always going to jump out at you. They are also ones I don't want you to spend a ton of time on, because you can go down that rabbit hole, right? Look back at our paper. Our paper looks really good. Now, if we were doing this, would I have gotten every single one right? I forgot which one, but I did miss one on this first through 10. So no, I wouldn't. But would I have felt like I got it? Yes. And that's the big thing on this day. You want to build your confidence at every corner. You want to feel that you're in control of this test, not this test in control of you. That's why I say put those big old checks. And what I would do right now is I would say, okay, number 1, I'd bubble in. Number 3, remember I would have skipped 2. Number 4, number 5. Now, if you feel like you're comfortable doing those, go for it. Please use your own. That's why I want you to practice these. Use your own tools in this. Personally, it works for me to skip, but I can see where in number 10, had I not skipped that one, I would have remembered the sentences before and above backwards. I mean, much more quickly. That have been right there at me, right? So come up with your own thing. Maybe that one I wouldn't have skipped had I realized or looked down through it. But you come up with your own. That's why we have these practice tests. All right, I'm going to note a couple of other things. In the next 10, in the next 10, there were 3 that were a little more time consuming. And this particular one on number 15, I went ahead and did that one because it says something that didn't reinforce the main idea. And that one quickly jumped out to me. It did reinforce the main idea. That answer is A. So you were good to go. For those of you that work the 20, let me go ahead and just tell you the next answers. Number 11 is D. Number 12 is F. Number 13 is A. 14 is H. 15 is A. That's the one I did work. I did not skip that one. 18 is F. 19 is B. 20 is G. 21 is D. 22 is H. Oh, we only went through 20, didn't you? All right. So, and I'll post the answers. There's a whole sheet because obviously there's 75. There are more of them there. I really want you to spend some time here and make sure, I'm going to do something real quick. In fact, yeah. All right. I want to, sorry, I'm trying to do this for your attendance. Let me take a picture real quick. Okay, I want you to make sure that you work through these. There's 75 of them, they're plenty, but I'm gonna post 2 more tests. So if you wanna take a test, and now that you've done the math, and then you will have kind of worked through the English maybe today, maybe tonight or tomorrow, you would like to work through those 2 sections. Maybe you wanna go ahead and work, the reading one, see how you do on it after tomorrow's session. What I would like you to also do for tomorrow's session is to go ahead and work the first passage. It's the prose. It's the one that people normally do the best on. Let's see what this one is. I forgot. Oh yeah, Bitter Grounds. This is a good one. Yeah, I just have to remember which one it is. So I want you to work the first passage, just the first 10 for the reading tomorrow, and I'll see you back at 11 unless anyone has questions. Do I have anybody with questions? Nope, good to go? Okay, if you do, shoot me a remind. You all can reach me through remind. Thank you for joining. I hope this was helpful. Spend some time with this packet, but also with those practice tests and practice little sites and the videos. Have a great day. See you tomorrow at 11. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. McDonald. Nice meeting you. Nice seeing you. You were great. Educational,
you.
informative. I took notes.
Okay, very good, very good. Sorry if it was kind of fast, but you can go back and watch it if you want, and we'll do the reading tomorrow. Very much the same, okay? Glad you could join us.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you. Have a good day, okay?
You too.